I'm here with Brittney from Unleash the Archers to talk about their upcoming new record, Phantoma, out May 10th on Napalm Records. As always, thank you for taking the time to chat with me about the record, to chat with me about the band, and to
Thanks
chat
for
to me,
having me.
yeah, and to chat about almost being canceled. We're definitely going to talk about that, but let's start off with the concept of the record. What inspired you guys to go with this concept, with this new idea involving AI?
Well, we started we're writing the album in the middle of the pandemic, and because there was nothing else to do, so it was like early 2021. But I had had this idea for a while actually, because I'm a science fiction nerd, and I like reading and watching science fiction movies and all that sort of stuff. And so I pitched this one to the boys along with a couple of other story ideas, um, in like January or February of 2021, after we had learned that our tours had once again been pushed and canceled. Um, and I said, how about this one? As one of the options for the next concept record. And yeah, Phantoma is the one that won out from everyone, thinking that it could be best sort of stretched out into 10 songs, because it was just like the broad strokes of the story, really, when I first pitched it to them. Um, it started with Phantoma, the character, and the name, really, of the album. I knew that right off that that was what I wanted it to be, and I knew that I wanted her to be an AI that gains sentience and struggles with humanity, her own humanity, humankind in general, and she's just trying to find her place in the world. So, it's definitely comes from all the science fiction I've ever watched in my whole life, Star Wars, the Alien franchise, um, Star Trek. Uh, there's a comic book series called Tokyo Ghost that I love, that really inspired this scene. It inspired this sort of post-apocalyptic-ish world, but everyone's still, just living their daily lives, but they're completely immersed in social media and the internet and everything. So, a little bit from that. Uh,
That doesn't
yeah.
sound very sci-fi. That sounds just like now.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read Tokyo Ghost, but like everyone has these. It's like kind of like what the Apple headset wants. It's like a world where you're surrounded by everything you could ever think of, and people can like pop up if you're walking by like their shop. They can pop up a commercial into your like your eyepiece, and then you can just swipe it away, But everyone is walking around the world surrounded by screens, and they don't talk to each other anymore, really. And it's a very solitary world, but still absolutely packed with human beings, and the world is pretty destroyed. It's like, filled with pollution, and it's just on the edge. That, I think, is kind of the step before where Phantoma goes, where the air is no longer breathable and humans have to live in biomes, and AI kind of does everything. They do all the work. It's robots and machines that keep everything running, and humans are free to be our frivolous selves.
Wow, sounds like a perfect world. So, for some, not for me, but for some.
Yes.
Uh, how do you because AI, since you guys thought about the concept, AI has become something that everybody's talking about it, with different impacts on different people and different businesses. But the impact on the music world, are you concerned about AI? Are you concerned where it might go and to what might lead?
I mean, I might be being naive here, but no. Um, if people want to use AI to make music, how is that any different from just another person starting a band? You know what I mean? We're already competing against millions upon millions of artists for that moment of your time, to listen to us, to come to our shows, to buy our merch. So it would be no different than, you know, 100 more bands starting, 1,000 more bands starting, in my opinion. And honestly, it's It's going to change it in ways that, we probably can't even think of. It's probably going to simplify the production process, that's for sure. When it comes to recording, things like that. Um, sometimes I'll be singing a line and like the take was perfect, but I was just slightly off the metronome or whatever, and we'll just like, okay, well, let's just take this whole phrase and bump it back a bit, so that it's on the click. And maybe, and I'm sure this is already happening. There'll be AI built right into Pro Tools and it'll just like boop and it'll move it for you. And then if you want it to be off, like you like, no, no, I wanted the mood, I wanted the groove or whatever, then you have to physically move it back, because it'll just learn from what you do. It's like, oh, every time this happens, they always change it to this. So I'm gonna just do that for them. That kind of thing. It's definitely gonna, that's, I'm pretty sure it's already there.
So
Um,
basically, what you're saying is that the more intelligent we become, the lazier we're getting.
well, have you seen Wally? I mean, we figure out how to go into space, and all we do is sit in, lounge chairs and drink pop and just wait for the planet to be better again. Um, that's totally, yeah, that's us. We, we come up with this great technology to save us from this thing, and
From
then we just kind
ourselves.
of, and then we just wait for the next thing to happen that we have to like, oh, I guess we've got to figure this out now. Let's evolve a little bit more, and whatever this next threat is. So, yeah, I mean, that's, humankind in a nutshell, kind of, I guess you could say. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna change the world, but what the heck am I gonna do about it? You
Yeah, there's
know,
not
the
much we can do about it, but go along for the ride, I guess. I mean,
yeah,
I'm waiting for the time where AI tells my son that he's spending too much time playing video games.
yeah.
When that happens, then I'll be all for AI. Up
Well, you
until then,
already you can turn on the notification where it's like you spent too much time on your phone this week or whatever, screen time
yeah, but it's not the same
stats
thing
and
as
stuff.
me doing it as this AI like from
Right.
space or whatever. It sounds like God is talking to you. You're spending too much time on your phone. You know what I mean? So maybe that will
Yeah.
have a bigger impact on him than me, his dad, telling him that he's spending too much time playing video games. And I actually heard something interesting about that the other day, but I'm not going to get into that because I know you're also a very avid gamer. So
Yes.
maybe I'll leave that for the end. Now, as far as the concept is concerned, was there a specific part of turning the idea that you pitched to the guys into the execution of creating the record that surprised you about how difficult it was to go from one to the next?
Yes, absolutely. I'm kind of the last, however many concept records we did, they were all very fantastical. They were set in places that didn't exist and on planets that I could invent, and it was much easier to make the songs come through in a way that are not so literal, so that people can listen to them and apply their own story, and but also still be able to tell the story. This one was much more difficult because I'm not sure if it was the science fiction theme in that I had to like talk about computers. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of hard to sing about computers and make it about something else and make it broad enough that you could be like, oh yeah, I feel like I totally uh, um, relate to whatever's happening in this song right now. So that was definitely difficult, um, especially the buried in code part where she literally is like finding a secret message hidden on the metaverse, and then escapes with a fellow droid. Like you just can't really veil that in fantastical language. So that was pretty difficult. But hopefully the song is still good, and hopefully it resonates with people anyways. But yeah, that was definitely something I did not consider when pitching this idea to the boys. It was easy enough until right up until the end, which is when I write the lyrics. And it's always, of course, it's the very last thing, and then it's like the time crunch thing, and then it's like, oh man, the boys helped me on with a lot of lyrics on this one.
So, does this album, because of those difficulties, did it convert you more from a singer into a storyteller?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, it definitely helped me um, figure out how to tell more of a literal story in the music. Um, I think I've always kind of been a storyteller with just being that it's so much more fun. It's more fun to write the album that way. It's more fun to perform it live when you can kind of get into this headspace of, okay, I'm the immortal now and I'm going to battle, and just getting to like kind of portray that on stage is a lot of fun. It's always been an important part of it for me. So I think it's just kind of honed my skills, maybe, if anything.
The reason I'm asking that question is because in previous concept records from you guys, I had a hard time following the story if I wasn't reading the lyrics. Like if I'm just listening to the songs and I'm listening to the album, because there's so much going on musically and vocally, like you get sidetracked with everything that your brain is absorbing, that the actual lyrics become like, okay, so where the hell am I in this freaking story unless I have the lyrics in front of me? I thought with this album was completely different. I was actually able to see the sound and everything else almost just as a soundtrack, and I was
Hmm.
able to completely absorb what you were saying lyrically and follow the story along, which made the whole album a lot more enjoyable as a whole because it was like an audiobook. I'm just following what you're telling me, and I'm attached, like emotionally attached to the story more than I am emotionally attached to the music, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, and that's because I had to be literal. I had to say exactly what was happening in the story in order to progress the storyline, because of how present day the story that I chose was, and how rooted in real life it was. So it was, yeah, like I said, it's really hard to make it more of kind of an abstract theme that I could just spin into, like, oh yeah, by the way, this is the battle where he fights the matriarch, but mostly I'm singing about how to find the strength within yourself to carry on, and the moments when you come up against a wall and you got to kind of pick yourself back up again, and um, you know but it's definitely always been more of an abstract than on this record, where I just kind of straight up I'm like, this is what's happening. I
Yeah.
can't not tell you this otherwise. um, which, yeah, it was, it made it super difficult, but I'm glad that it kind of clarified things. um, and in other interviews that I've had people say, something kind of similar, in that you can really kind of feel the story and follow along with the story, and lyrically and musically, you don't even realize that there's songs that are so different on the album, because it's like, yep, this is what needs to happen in the story right now. And yeah, it's been interesting to hear people, um, people's comments on that, because I was like so scared when I was writing this, like, oh my God, how do I do this? How do I say this in such a way that someone that has no idea this is a concept record and is just listening to this one song out of nowhere, that they aren't totally confused with what the heck is going on? Um, so it was a struggle, but I'm glad that,
Well,
I mean, it kind of sucks that you kind of have to be like, okay, if you really want to understand, you got to listen from beginning to end, because this is just not the way that the world is anymore. We don't listen to albums, we listen to playlists and singles and stuff. So hopefully that's not too much of a detriment.
I think the perfect song to illustrate that is the one about creating the code, building the lines of code. Because I'm listening to that song, and that's like a modern day version of Donna Summer. I work hard for my money, because it felt
Yeah.
like I was getting that same vibe. Like, here I am creating code. I'm working hard for my money. Like it gave me that vibe, which I thought was great. Like, I'm sure that wasn't the inspiration, but that's the vibe that it gave me. And I was like,
Right.
wow, this is really a modern day version of Donna Summer. I like it. I dig
Or
it.
like Dolly Parton's the 9 to 5. Da,
The
da.
vibe, exactly. Like, similar vibes come out of those two songs about somebody working hard for whatever it is that they're doing. And
Yeah,
that specific song kind of transported me into a modern day version, or a futuristic version of what those two tracks represent.
it'll
Now,
be
now
the theme song for developers everywhere.
I'm sure if they did Silicon Valley, a new season, the show was canceled. But if they were coming up with a new season, I'm sure that song somehow would find its way into the soundtrack. I think it's perfect.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
and you have a little bit more. I'm going to call it synthetic, but there's a little bit more, not fake, but there's a little bit more non-organic, for lack of a better term, electronic sound, like synthesizer sound. Was that specifically with keeping the mind connected with the concept of the album, that you wanted to create an element that represents that synthetic being, if you will?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. We just wanted everyone to feel like, they were in a computer. We wanted it to be very Tron-esque. So yeah, a lot of the times when Andy would send a riff to me to be like, oh, I think this is good for this song or whatever, it would be very synth heavy or even just a synth riff sometimes. Um, to kind of be like, is this the right vibe? And yeah, and I thought that was great because we played around with synth on Abyss just because it was set in outer space, and we just kind of wanted to give it a bit of that ethereal vibe. But most of the synth in Abyss was kind of added after, and it was still a very guitar heavy record. And then some of the songs were like synth first, like Through Stars, but then a lot of it was just like, okay, we'll throw a synth line over this to make it spacey. And then with Phantoma, it was, yeah, a lot of times it was sort of, you could tell the intro was like all synth here, or it's just very, it was very important part of the sound. So that was absolutely, we just kind of wanted to transport you into a future similar, to Tron and that kind of computerized world, and get you in the mind space of being an AI trapped in a computer, and then just kind of feel that growth as it moves over time into the final track where there's like barely any synth at all, because she's kind of reached her most human point. So yeah, it's very definitely intentional.
I always find it really strange that in any sci-fi story, the AI or the robot or whatever, their main goal is to be more human. But
Hmm.
considering how flawed we are and how
Right.
intelligent they are, isn't that such a human characteristic that their own thought process becomes super flawed because they want to be that it's not perfect when they're already have reached perfection?
Well, that's what we've instilled. We've programmed them this way, right? Because we are their creators at the beginning, and so what we're looking for is a humanoid structure in our lives so that it's not off-putting, and then it ends up kind of being a curse more than a blessing, because then it's like, oh, you're so unlike us, but you look like us, and then Android, AI in stories, in the past, the way that, I mean, there's a million portrayals of sentient AI in science fiction movies and books and etc. So, everyone's done it kind of different ways, but they just want to be accepted because, that's exactly what humans want. And we can't help but program ourselves into them, right? And then, so with Phantoma, that's exactly what happens, is that she's the AI that runs this hub that gives the biome everything that it could possibly need. She makes sure that humans are always taken care of. And so she's surrounded by humans, but in this way that she only sees on the metaverse and through their daily lives. It's never like a face-to-face sort of contact. So she learns what humans are through the lens that they want. And so she thinks that they're awesome. She thinks that humans are kind and caring and fun and creative, and so just they create these beautiful things. They create movies and paintings and artwork and plays, and they're just so culturally rich, and she just loves this, and she models herself after that. But then when she meets them, she realizes, oh, you know, the metaverse is just full of lies of what you think you want people to see, the front that you're putting out there. And really you're horrible, dark, vapid people. And it's a crisis for her of conscience. And she kind of is like, but this is what I've wanted to be my whole life, so now what? And and then that's kind of when the turning point happens, when she is the ideal of human who becomes truly human through her um, you know, quest for revenge after kind of everything that she's worked so hard for is taken away from her. And it's kind of like, in the beginning, she is more human than a human. She's the best human, and then eventually she just becomes human, And so that's kind of, yeah, it's inevitable, really, because she, she's our creation, and she just is a complete reflection of humankind in all its forms.
You mentioned earlier the guitar sound about it, how it was in previous records. I felt like the guitar sound on this record was actually pretty heavy, maybe even heavier than some of the previous records. Is that your very own way of counterbalancing that more synthetic
Hmm.
keyboard sound? Okay, so let's make the guitars a little bit extra heavy.
Well, no, that's what it was. It was that almost every song I was like, this riff needs to be dark. This riff needs to be heavy. It's like, and a lot of times I'm like leaning, like, let's lean into in a more industrial sound here. Let's give it like a sort of like German EDM kind of vibe, and because the story is so dark. The stories in Apex and Abyss are not this dark. There are moments of darkness, but for the most part, that whole story arc of the Immortal Saga is about hope and um, hope for the future and having hope, in oneself. And Phantoma is not like that. It's very much a portrayal of, the faults of humankind, um, kind of portrayed to the max, and then reflected back at us through sentient AI. So yeah, it was definitely a much darker story. So when Andrew would come at me with like a really heavy riff and be like, I don't know if this fits for this song, I'd be like, yes, it does. Don't worry, absolutely perfect. And then, so what's funny is that it's like with Ghosts in the Mist and Seeking Vengeance and a couple of the other songs, it's like it's either like really happy synth and super dark guitars, or like Green and Glass, where it's really happy guitars, but then there's this kind of undertone of darker synth in there. So there's always just the two of them playing back and forth, because it's like this is the future, but it sucks.
I'm glad you mentioned Green and Glass because that's where I want to take the conversation next. I mean, you are the queen of metal in Canada. The band is widely loved and respected by everyone. Did it shock you in any way, the kind of negative feedback and pushback that you guys received over that video?
Yes, absolutely. Um, I mean, we knew that using art and AI together was a controversial thing, which is why we licensed artwork, from a single artist in order to create the music video. Um, but so a lot of the people were kind of like, "Oh, okay, so you paid an artist, good." But a lot of people were just like, "You used AI, get out of here," and it was just straight up hatred for AI that we didn't expect,
Let me
because
interrupt you there for a second because I'm going to give you my take. We did a video about it actually, and my take is normally I would not be okay with it, but considering the concept of the album, like how can you not? I mean, you're talking about AI for God's sakes. It's not like you're talking about, Julie Marie who lives in France. You know what I mean? Like there's a specific context in which you have to be aware of, and that plays a role into it. So, uh, anyway, sorry to interrupt you. I just want to give you. I thought the whole thing was super stupid because there is a context to why you guys did what you did, and that context
mhm.
matters and how you did it, and the two are intertwined. You cannot separate one from the other. Sorry, I just had to
No,
say my
no,
piece.
no, that's okay. No, yeah, and that is why we used it. We wouldn't have otherwise. Um, we would have just kind of gone about things like we normally do. But because it was like, oh yeah, let's use AI in an album about AI. Cool. How meta. Um, but also, I understand because artists out there are freaking out. Um, I can't remember who it was, but I think it was like um, the Magic the Gathering company or whatever was talking about like only using AI artwork for their cards. And it was just like, well, that's stupid because it's just really not at the place where that's going to work. I mean, maybe, I don't know. And then you would still have to hire AI artists. You got to have people in your company that know how to use it and make it look good, because it's not easy. Um, you gotta have some skills there. So you're still paying people to create your artwork. Just why not just have artists? But I get it. It is it is a new form of art, and so it's kind of like scary, and we don't know we don't know the future of this thing. So yeah, a lot of artists were up in arms because it's like kind of tolling the bells of doom for them here. But we thought that that we had kind of covered our bases with paying an artist for their work, but then there was other sides of it that we just didn't think about. Like people thought that that we had chosen to do this instead of hiring an animator, and it's like, no, we didn't want an animated music video. We wanted a music video that we were in because that's what we do, and we wanted to act in it and portray all the characters and and create this world like we always do in our music videos, but then do it in such a way that we kind of paint it with the artwork and can make it be in a setting that we could never in our lives create for the budget that we have. And so that was really, uh, people were upset about that. And then also the program that we used, despite the fact that we trained the AI models exclusively on the licensed artwork, it fills in the gaps with who knows what. And a lot of people, were upset about that. And we didn't realize that it was that just the program was an issue for a lot of people. So, so I understand where they're coming from there. I understand a lot of it. Absolutely. And um, it's a crazy time. We're all looking at um, job insecurity right now because of this. It's going to infiltrate every sector, absolutely everything. And we're just going to have to adapt, and we're going to have to, figure it out. And unfortunately, we were just kind of on a stage where people were like, "Ah, look, see them. They're doing exactly what we're scared of." And um and we just kind of got thrust into the limelight, and it's unfortunate because I'm seeing it everywhere, and um absolutely everywhere people are using AI in their in the creative stuff, music, art,
What you're
videos,
describing,
everywhere.
is exactly what I heard my parents say when computers came around. It's no different. It's just that it's a new technology and people
Yeah,
don't understand it completely, and therefore they're scared. You're always
right,
scared of
right,
what you don't know or what looks different
exactly.
from you.
Absolutely, for sure. And like, but that's that right there is human nature. um Change is inevitable, and we're constantly surrounded by it, and yet we hate it, and we just we don't work well with it. No one does. No one wants to change what's good and what's comfortable right now. And I'm one of the same. I don't want to make a mess of things. Things are going okay right now. I have a job that pays the bills, and it allows me to make music on the side, and um things are just kind of working, and that's all going to change. It's going to change for everybody. So, I totally understand but the parts that I didn't understand were just the straight up negativity. Some people, there was no excuse. It was just, you know, this band is trash, or how inauthentic. And it's like, as if we weren't behind this, as if we weren't putting all of there's always a human behind the AI, and people forget that that AI video of whatever Jennifer Lawrence, you know, in a porno or whatever, the computer didn't just decide to make that. Some asshole of a human being did, and so you got to think about the fact that there's always a human behind it, and that they're putting thought. Like we worked so hard to make that music video something unique, and um like we yeah, we acted in it. The boys built it in Unreal Engine from the ground up, and it was literally like one part of it that was AI. And but I get it. I totally get it. People are worried about
People,
what's going on out there. So
and on this stressful and sad note of events, where our conversation is coming to an end, I just want to mention two quick things. One is, since you're into AI and since you're into sci-fi, There's a new show on Netflix. I'm not getting paid for this, but I really enjoy Three Body Problem. I don't know if you've seen that yet or not. I think it's amazing. There's a line there where the alien says, "So the Red Riding Hood story. So it's a lie about a liar." And I never thought about that story from that perspective because the story is not real, and obviously the big bad wolf is a liar. So I wanted to throw that at you. And second thing is, I heard somebody the other day say that people who play a lot of video games are basically compensating for their real life not being successful. And when you level up on the games, it's like you in real life leveling up in your career. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to leave you with that. I'm not saying that's the case with you. I'm just saying that's what somebody said, and that's what I'm telling my son because unlike you, he's not doing anything.
I don't know, video games are pretty great. But
But
yeah,
you
you
need a
definitely
life behind it to pay for the games.
definitely want to plan A going on there. But yeah, no, I've heard Three Body Problem. I'm not into AI. We literally just put it on the album because of what I like
Well, the
science fiction.
three body,
That's
yeah,
what
three
I like.
body
I like
problem has
science
nothing to
fiction.
do. Three body problem has nothing to do with AI. It's all about science fiction, aliens, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no,
The
I've
AI,
heard
the AI,
many people
yeah,
told me
the
that I need
AI
to watch
part
it.
comes into the mix because of the way aliens communicate with us is through AI. So that's where
Oh,
that part comes in. Because,
cool.
like you said, they want them to look like us so that we're not afraid of them. You want to create something that's somewhat similar, which plays into the story of Phantoma. So that's where it all ties in. At least that's how I'm tying all this conversation together.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. No, that's great.
Brittney, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure as always. I look forward to seeing you guys on the road and playing in Toronto very soon with this album in your back pocket. So all the best to you and the gang.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Take
Thanks for
care.
having me.
Bye.